it also relates to, going forward relates to what has happened in the past. So I didn't touch upon, a lot of aspects. Like sometimes athlete might have done wonderfully. Like for example, TMM, all the athletes I coached, 100% everybody got a PB. But that does not mean that it's a tick everywhere, right? So you need to look at so even with my own race, I did well, I did better than what I expected, but I'm still digging for mistakes. So we start digging for mistakes, like what is it that didn't go right, even otherwise. And that is a lot about having a conversation, trying to go through the entire race and figure out as many vital points as possible. Then once you identify what those factors are, immediately start looking at what can be done better. And sometimes the landscape also changes. Like an athlete might be moving on to a different sort of race. So I've had athletes who are doing a triathlon and now want to do a marathon. Someone did a marathon, wants to do an ultra marathon. How things will change, from that perspective if the landscape is changing, right? So two different aspects is, what are the aspirations? Are you ready to take on? Your trainability is also a huge factor. So for me, there is a factor of trainability. I don't assume that anyone can do anything, right? I know it's possible, provided you're at a certain level, or whatever level you are, you can incrementally move to a certain level in a healthy manner, like without getting into the injury, risk of developing an injury or getting too fatigued, right? So that is one evaluation we need to do, is what is your aspiration? Does it sit in well with? And sometimes aspirations are just time targets. So those are actually very easy to work out. So you know where your current fitness level is, how much time you have for that certain event, and then evaluate what is your trainability, how much time you can put in, and all these parameters put together then let you know what achievable goal is. Having said that, that is just the overall plan, right? But it needs to be evaluated from time to time to see whether we are on track. If not, what needs to be done to get you back on track, or maybe if there is not enough time, then
setting the goals.
Yeah. So that's the number one thing, like goal setting. And the most important thing when it comes to goal setting is the date. I mean, when is the event is the single biggest factor that affects the entire goal setting process.
So you have to obviously set the goal with.
Yeah, because time is a huge thing, because we're looking at amateur runners here, right? And we're not looking at elite athletes here, right? So even I think to the point where Sunil was talking about, so when you're dealing with an elite athlete, he has an injury or he has he's fallen ill, that is directly related to the sport itself to a great extent, because he's doing that full time. But when it is an amateur athlete, there is so much more happening, right? There's work, there's travel, there's family. So you have to understand whether this is sport related or whether it's coming from different other factors. There's only so much that you can address. So you need to look at those factors also, like how to manage within whatever I would say limitations you have. What are your constraints? Can those constraints be changed or not? If they cannot be changed, then we need to work. The plan has to sort of factor that in. So we have to do those considerations. So we have to evaluate, okay, I talk to them about what your travel plans look like. Are there any social commitments at a very high level to understand, even with that given span of time, it might be 6 months. But what is that 6 month effectively? How much your trainability is will define how much time you can put, how much hours you can put in a week. That sort of gives us the overall time that you can put into the training, and that allows us to gauge what the goal can be like.
Taking your answer, and I'm doing this deliberately to move to him. In a sense, let's say the runner has come up with a plan saying, okay, so December whatever 2019 I want to do this. You've given him a plan, and from my experience, I have never stuck to a plan. And not because I don't want to. I am super passionate about my running, but I just can't do it because work comes, life happens, somebody falls ill, I fall ill, some random stuff happens, right? Now, how do you want such a person, like, let's put me as a person, like Chaitanya, to go about, now that I have a plan, now what do? I will skip, I'm definitely going to skip like 20%, 30% of, and I'll let him answer.
Okay.
Yeah. So firstly, I take a few steps back, because when a person finishes his race, he's done it. The first thing I tell, the runner or the trainer to do is to write a race report. Number one thing, write down your race report within 2 days of your race. Write it down. What was your experience like? And share it in the group. Share it across. Because there are certain perspectives that the other person might be able to take. So a race report is not between only the coach and the...
There's no template for the report.
No, it should be free thinking. Okay. It should be free thinking. How did you feel? What did you go wrong? Where you felt you could have improved and all that stuff? What did you eat during the race? Where did you feel you had gone wrong? Whether you overhydrated or underhydrated, just put it in. just put in what you feel like, and just put it in, because then people will read this, who are trainees, who are reading it. They'll understand this, okay? Then that becomes a very good discussion, people will ask me the right questions. Hey coach, what should I have done with this? What should I have done with this? And that's how we create this. The second thing, most important thing that I tell my trainees to do is to take a break. You have worked hard for this. Now, whether you've got your PB, you've not got your PB, one thing that you deserve is a break. Take a break for a few weeks. Okay, relax yourself. Don't get into the training plan and all that stuff. Just go out. Just go relax yourself. Then come back focused. Okay? Once your body is tested, you're doing something different. Because it's not about hitting plan after plan after plan, right? You'll get fatigued. That syndrome is going to be there. Take a break. Take a break from Sunil Menon. Okay? Don't hear from him for the next 1 month. Tell him, I don't want to see you. That's what it should be. Take a break. Go relax. So one of my trainees is going for a Vipassana for a month. I said, great job, man. He was too scared. Sunil, I need to take a break. Can I go? I said, what? You go. You should. You deserve a break. Go enjoy yourself. Be with your family. Get back all the other priorities that you have not been able to focus on because of this race. Get it back. And when a person gets a time to do that, he gets more focused. Then third thing I tell them to do is, okay, now if you want to plan your race, your 2019, sit down and make an A race, B race, C race. A being, Sunil, that's the most important race that I want to coach. That's my A race. I want to target that race. I want to do well in that. Now, whether it is a PB or whether it is finishing strong or whatever it is, doesn't matter. I want to do well in that race. B race being a trial race. I want to try and see whether things are working or not. Maybe a run walk strategy. Maybe something that needs to be worked on. Tweaking little bits. You don't want to tweak things in your A race. You want to tweak things in your B race. So do that in your B race. Because even if you fail in your B race, you'll still take away from that experience and maybe not do that in your A race. The third way is C race. C race, fun race. Go, enjoy yourself. Be a pacer. Take your friend along and make him or her do a PB. Okay? You should not be only aiming for PBs and all this. So the way I tell my trainees is, have maximum 2 A races, which is your prime race. The rest let it be B and C. There's no harm in racing, those small races because those add to your experience. And let not every race be a PB. Make it a fun race. Just go do a run, walk, run. Do a 2:30 half marathon. Just enjoy yourself. Look around. Take pictures. Run with a friend. You want to see how your run, walk strategy is working. Do that in your B race. So that when you are going for your A race, you're not fatigued or you're not tensed up. You're mentally and physically prepared because you've done your homework. So the B and C races are their homework.
I think that's a big problem. I'm sure when you're training, all of you probably do it. But that's not what a typical amateur does. Like we basically, her race is a race. And we just go mad on it.
And that is why you require a coach. See, the thing is, that's where the coach comes in. You need to have a person who can guide you. If you're a self-coached athlete, you'll end up pushing yourself forever because there's never end to what you expect from the body.
So I differ on that aspect. So I really believe there are people who can be self-coached. I myself have been a self-coached athlete, right? Question is, I think the factor which really determines whether you can do that or not is how much time are you willing or how much energy are you willing to put into this activity, right? If, as I said in my last conversation, you remember, right? I encourage people to read, encourage people to have their thoughts, but don't skim the surface. Dig deep, find out more, analyze what you are doing, and then it's perfectly possible to be self-coached, right? But when you have multiple priorities, that is when sometimes coaching becomes difficult, or maybe you are facing a challenge wherein you're not able to progress further and you sort of need a different perspective. That is when a coach really comes into play. Right, and like he was talking about the ABC races, right? So again, that differs from person to person. For me, I mean, every athlete is different, right? So I say that there are as many ways of training as many athletes. So I think probably every athlete that I train is on a completely different principle. For some people, there are no C races. It doesn't work because I have to see what is the athlete's capability. So there are people who can do an AB, and they do very well. when they are on that. And the B races really are determined by what the A race is, and then the B race comes into picture. In my case, this B is not a random event. It sort of has to be placed well in order for it to be a good preparatory event. There has to be enough time for the learnings from the B, learned from, and then make those additional changes, adapt to it, and then. So again, the approach completely changes. I have to sort of understand what is the current ability of the athlete, what his mindset is like, and then depending on that, I sort of take a call on, and sometimes it's an ongoing conversation. It changes from year to year with the long-term athletes that I work with. So again, my perspective, even when it comes to personal best, is it completely depends. Like for me, for example, all marathons I've ever run in my life have been a personal best so far, and I've done so I've never had an injury in the past 5 years. I think the only injury I had was my first time that I ran, and that's because I was totally unstructured. But ever since that date, never been injured, I've never been stressed out, I've never felt unhappy about a race in spite of. So it's tough to generalize. I mean, sometimes for some people, trying to always achieve a PB can be very stressful. In which case, probably you just put off from a race, because some people, no matter what you tell them, let's just see race, go and have fun, they're not going to go and have fun, because you put them at the start line, the atmosphere sort of puts pressure. So to understand that this guy, there are no C races. If you want to have fun, just go and do your normal training runs and have fun. Some people can do it, can relax, and sometimes I make that mistake. Sometimes I learn from the athlete. I put him on a C race or a B race, and then I realize he's not treating it as a B race. So probably in that case, there's no more B racing and sort of.
So thanks for bringing that nutrition part of it, because I want to get Dr. Samta really interested in the whole thing. So the thing with all of us, right? And I don't want to be very generic to people who eat really healthy. Again, the people who may not think what they're eating is healthy, that's a different thing. But we tend to eat food and think we are eating healthy, okay? Or a lot of us, we don't even know what we eat when we eat all sorts of things. How do you think we should be doing that, right? Running, we are getting fitter, but eating, are we getting healthier? I don't know what we are doing.
I actually just want to say here that nutrition plays an important role for the runners. And nowadays, most of the runners are thinking that they need only protein. So they are gorging on the protein shakes, they are eating protein bars and the protein powders. See, if you're taking only the one kind of food group, then how you will get the other things? We have you need the good fats also. Like we have the vitamins A, B, C, D and K. Out of these, A, D, E and K are the fat soluble vitamins. If you're taking only the protein diet, those vitamins will not get absorbed in your body. So you need the good fats also to absorb those vitamins. Otherwise you will end up having the deficiency. So my take here is eat the well balanced diet, eat the seasonal fruits and vegetables, locally grown seasonal fruits, and then have the whole grains also, include millets, whole wheat, rice in your diet. So your diet should be a well balanced rather than just paying attention on the protein. So please, I just want to advise everyone, go off your diet from the protein and eat the wholesome homemade.
So without getting too deeply into that question, so this is the year of the millet.
Yes,
I think by the government also, right? And a lot of people are getting into millets, and everybody's selling millets, and everybody's eating millets.
Right.
But the moment you search millets on Google, it says don't eat too many millets. It says it's not good for you.
No.
And Google says it. I'm not saying
okay, Google says, but everything you need to eat in a limited portion. Right. So it's not like that limited, like the millets are good, so you can have the big whole plate of the millets. You need portion size also, and that is also most important. You need the veggies, your dal, legumes, lentils, and with the millets. It's not like you have to eat only the millets, you have to eat the whole thing together.
So how does your nutrition look like?